Imagine for a second that you're a mid-level financial analyst and you're living in Sydney.
Right, an expensive place to be.
Very expensive. So you've got a family, you have this fairly massive mortgage on, a pretty modest house.
Yeah, that's the reality for a lot of people there.
Exactly. And then you wake up and read a new industry report stating that over 60% of your daily tasks can now just be performed by artificial intelligence.
It's a terrifying moment.
Completely terrifying. Because to survive this shift, to keep your career alive, your only traditional option is to go back to university for like 3 or 4 years.
Which is just not feasible for most.
Right. You can't just quit your job to study, because then you can't pay that Sydney mortgage and you lose the house.
It's a brutal math problem.
It really is. So today, in this deep dive, we are looking at a brand new educational infrastructure that claims to solve this exact terrifying math for you.
Yeah, because it's a scenario playing out in thousands of households right now.
Absolutely.
The arrival of AI in the white-collar workplace is typically framed as this storm we just have to weather. But the source material we're examining today presents a radically different approach.
A much more positive one, right?
Exactly. We are looking at a major announcement from Eon AI Ventures. They're detailing the launch of their global virtual campus, which is tailored specifically for Australia and New Zealand.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the core premise we are exploring for you today is incredibly proactive.
Very.
Eon is proposing that upskilling to thrive in this new AI economy, it no longer requires pausing your life or taking on a crushing amount of new debt.
Yeah, which is the usual hurdle.
Right. They are offering a high-speed, effectively debt-free pathway to not just keep your job, but to gain international career mobility.
It's ambitious.
But to truly appreciate the mechanics of how Eon is attempting this, we first have to understand the unique, highly leveraged reality-facing professionals in Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, context is everything here. You really cannot appreciate the engineering of this solution without dissecting the specific pathology of the problem.
Which is pretty unique at ANZ, isn't it?
It is. Australia and New Zealand are currently facing this convergence of economic pressures that is essentially unmatched in other developed economies.
Let's talk about the data you brought from the source material.
Right. So the Anthropic Economic Index for 2026 paints a very stark picture. Their research confirms that, as of today, 40% of white-collar tasks across Australia and New Zealand are automatable.
Wow. 40% across the board is a massive number.
Yeah, it is.
But when you look at the sector breakdowns, it gets even more intense. I mean, we're seeing IT and software development at 75% task exposure.
With hiring freezes already happening.
Exactly. And financial services is sitting at 62%. Legal and paralegal roles are at 60%. Even government administration tasks are seeing 50% displacement.
And the crucial detail to focus on here is the demographic intersection.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the jobs being displaced, they aren't entry-level or, transient positions. Financial services is the single largest professional employer in Sydney and Auckland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And professional services and consulting, which are seeing a 55% impact, they serve as the core destination for university graduates in Melbourne and Wellington.
So we're talking about the absolute core of the workforce.
Right. We are talking about the structural pillars of the professional middle class in these countries.
Which brings us to the ultimate complicating factor. This specific professional workforce carries the world's highest household debt-to-income ratios.
Yes.
And that debt is hyper-concentrated in Sydney, Melbourne, and Auckland, which, happen to be some of the most expensive housing markets in the entire Asia-Pacific region.
That's the powder keg. That debt concentration transforms a simple labor market disruption into a severe macroeconomic threat.
Because if they stop working...
Exactly. If we look at the traditional retraining model, a professional going back to university for a new degree faces tuition costs upwards of 45,000 Australian dollars a year.
Just for tuition.
Right. And under the Australian government's higher education loan program, known as HECS ALP students, often graduate with anywhere from $20,000 to over $100,000 in debt.
I mean, asking a professional who is already leveraged to the absolute hilt on $1 million Sydney mortgage to take on another massive pile of HECS HLP debt.
While sacrificing their primary income for 4 years.
Right. It's like trying to change the tires on a car while driving on the highway.
Yeah.
You can't just stop working to study for 4 years. It is mathematically impossible. You simply cannot do it.
They cannot. And from a Treasury perspective, the government cannot afford for them to try and fail.
Because of the housing market.
Yeah. A sudden 5 to 10% spike in white-collar displacement in these highly leveraged regions doesn't just increase the unemployment rate, it triggers a mortgage default cascade among prime borrowers.
Which would be catastrophic.
The financial stability risk to the broader economy is enormous. So any institution that can provide a structurally sound alternative to that 4-year high-debt trap is positioned to completely redefine the market.
Okay, so if the traditional degree pathway is a dead end for these mortgage holders, the alternative has to bypass those two massive roadblocks, time and debt.
Right.
Let's look at how Aeon's global virtual campus is engineered to get around those walls. The headline claim here is that they're delivering credentials through a 90-day intensive retraining pathway.
Yeah, 90 days.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, but I have to stop and push back on this.
Yeah.
90 days. That is the length of a single fiscal quarter.
It's fast.
It turns a crippling financial and time burden into a quick, manageable upskilling sprint, sure. But my immediate cynical instinct as a professional is that a 90-day part-time sprint is going to look like a diploma mill certificate on my resume, not a rigorous education.
That's a fair concern.
Like, how does a 90-day program replace a 4-year degree?
It is a vital question, and the answer lies in understanding the mechanism of the curriculum.
Okay.
The global virtual campus isn't designed to take an 18-year-old and give them a broad 4-year foundational education with, summers off and unrelated electives.
Right. It's not a bachelor's degree from scratch.
Exactly. It is an intensive retraining pathway built for professionals who already possess deep industry knowledge. The 90 days are spent surgically bridging the gap between their existing expertise and the new AI augmented reality of their specific field.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense.
Right.
So they aren't teaching a senior accountant how to use Excel from scratch.
Yeah, not at all.
They're teaching them how to audit the outputs of an AI financial model.
That is the exact mechanism at play. And EON facilitates this through a proprietary tool they call the Career Compass.
The Career Compass?
Yeah. The platform features 9,000 courses, but you aren't just browsing a catalog hoping to find something useful.
Because nobody has time for that.
Right. The Career Compass maps the specific automatable tasks in your current profession and directly aligns your 90-day curriculum with the human-in-the-loop and AI management skills required to stay relevant in that exact sector.
So it's a surgical strike on your own skill gaps.
Exactly.
And because it is only 90 days and designed around a working professional schedule, the most critical benefit emerges for you, the listener. You do not have to quit your job.
And what's fascinating here is, by remaining employed throughout the upskilling sprint, that is the linchpin of the entire macroeconomic solution.
Because the money keeps flowing.
The worker maintains their income, which means they maintain their mortgage payments, avoiding that default cascade we discussed, and the government maintains its tax revenue.
It's a win-win. But what about the cost? We established that traditional retraining was sitting around $45,000 a year.
Right. Well, the Global Virtual Campus delivers its credentials at approximately 1% of that traditional cost.
Wait, really? 1%?
Yes. We are looking at a near-zero HECS LLP equivalent. It essentially evaporates the debt barrier entirely.
That is incredible, which leads to the ultimate test of any educational program. Really, does it actually result in a job?
Of course.
Because the source material cites a 98% graduate employment rate for this platform. That number is staggering.
It's very high.
How are they achieving an outcome that high?
The employment rate is a direct reflection of that Career Compass mapping we just discussed.
Oh, because it's so targeted.
Exactly. Because the training is hyper-targeted to the specific verified gaps created by the current technological shift, graduates are stepping into roles where there is acute, immediate demand.
They already have the baseline skills, now they have the AI skills.
Right. They aren't graduating with abstract knowledge. They are graduating with the exact toolkit the AI economy is desperate to hire for today.
Okay, I see how the mechanics of the 90-day sprint and the targeted curriculum work.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I want to circle back to the credibility aspect, because fast and cheap still carries a stigma, right? If I'm going to invest my time, even just 90 days, I need to know this credential holds real weight.
And it does.
The source material emphasizes that this isn't just a local certificate. It is a formally accredited European university degree.
Right. The quality assurance here is what separates this initiative from, a standard online boot camp. EON built this platform in partnership with UBT, which is a highly prestigious institution.
Okay, let's talk about UBT.
To understand its global standing, we look to the WRI Global Rankings. That's the world's universities with real impact.
The real impact rankings.
Yeah. Unlike traditional rankings that might focus heavily on, say, the number of historical research papers an institution has published.
Right, the ivory tower stuff.
Exactly. WRI specifically measures a university's industrial application, entrepreneurial spirit, and crisis management. UBT ranks number 6 in the entire world on that index.
Number 6 globally for real-world industry impact. That is a massive validation.
It is.
And the source material also notes the platform holds a 4-year accreditation from the British Accreditation Council, which is the leading quality assurance body in the UK.
Yep.
So the international prestige is clearly documented. But for you listening right now in Sydney or Auckland or Brisbane, prestige in Europe doesn't pay the bills locally if Australian employers don't recognize the degree.
Well, the local integration has been meticulously planned. The credentials provided are fully mapped for compatibility with the AQF, the Australian Qualifications Framework, and the NZQA, the New Zealand Qualifications Authority.
The heavy hitters.
Right. These are the strict governmental gold standards for education in both countries.
Okay.
The source material points out that because the curriculum aligns so cleanly with these frameworks, the institutional legal review process typically only takes 1 to 2 weeks. There are no structural conflicts.
That's incredibly fast for a legal review. So it functions flawlessly as a recognized qualification at home.
It does.
But the true benefit of this European partnership seems to be what it unlocks beyond the borders of Australia and New Zealand. EON refers to these as Bologna-aligned credentials.
Yes.
Now, for those of us who aren't international education experts, what is the mechanism behind that term? What does that mean?
The Bologna process is this comprehensive agreement among European countries. It's designed to ensure complete comparability in the standards and quality of higher education qualifications.
Okay.
Because the degree you earn through the global virtual campus is Bologna-aligned, the credits and the qualification itself are structurally recognized and transferable to over 500 universities across the European Union, as well as many in the United States.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? If I'm understanding this right, it's not just a local certificate, it's a golden ticket.
It really is.
It's like upgrading your local city transit pass to an international flight ticket. Earning a traditional local degree might make you highly competitive in Melbourne, but taking that degree to Amsterdam or Toronto often requires like a complex credential translation or taking additional local courses.
The Bologna alignment removes that friction entirely.
It's just recognized.
Yeah. In a highly globalized, AI-driven economy, having a credential that is formally and immediately recognized across more than 80 active countries provides the ultimate form of career resilience.
Because you aren't tied to one market.
Exactly. You are no longer just protecting yourself against fluctuations in the local housing or labor market. You are giving yourself access to a global chessboard of professional mobility.
A global chessboard. I like that framing. But let's look at the current players on that board.
Sure.
If I am sitting on the board of a major Australian university or a vocational school, I am looking at a platform that is faster, cheaper, and internationally recognized. I'd normally look at this and wonder if traditional universities would fight it.
Because it looks like an existential threat.
Exactly. Why wouldn't the traditional higher education sector lobby to just shut this down?
Well, in many disruptive scenarios, that is exactly what happens. The incumbent industry fights the new technology. However, EON has executed a brilliant structural maneuver here.
What do they do?
They have designed the global virtual campus not as a hostile competitor, but as an API, like a plugin that empowers the existing ecosystem.
Yeah.
They are turning potential rivals into deeply incentivized partners.
Oh, I see. It's like adding a high-speed rail line to an existing train station without having to lay the tracks yourself.
That is a perfect analogy. Or like a local independent restaurant signing up for a major food delivery app.
Right.
The restaurant doesn't have the capital to build their own global tech infrastructure, but by plugging into the platform, they instantly offer a new service, reach a new market, and take their cut of the revenue, all while using their existing kitchens.
So how does that look for an actual university?
For Australian and New Zealand universities and vocational providers like TAFE, technical, and further education, the global virtual campus acts as a co-credentialing mechanism.
Okay.
Universities are currently struggling with the exact problem we discussed. How do you attract debt-averse students in an inflation-heavy economy?
It's tough.
This platform gives those institutions the ability to offer a world-ranked, internationally recognized European degree at a near-zero debt equivalent.
And the financial incentives for the universities are massive, aren't they?
Huge.
According to the breakdown in the source material, EON allows the partnering institution to set the final student price, and the institution keeps the full margin.
Right.
The estimate suggests that for every 1,000 students enrolled, the local university, or TAFE, is looking at an annual gross margin of between 70,000 and 150,000 Australian dollars.
It creates a new, highly profitable revenue stream without requiring the university to hire new faculty or build new lecture halls.
It's turnkey.
Exactly. And for TAFE specifically, the integration happens alongside their existing vocational programs. A student can pursue a dual track, earning a practical vocational qualification simultaneously with a European university degree.
At the same time.
Yeah. This can be activated through established infrastructure like TAFE NSW, Skills Victoria, and TAFE Queensland.
Which also completely changes the game for international education.
Right.
Education is one of Australia's biggest exports.
Definitely.
So if a student from an Asian source market is choosing between studying in Canada, the UK, or Australia, an Australian institution can now say, "Come study with us, and you will graduate with both an Australian qualification and a European degree."
That is a massive differentiator.
It's huge.
It is a profound competitive advantage. But the structural integration goes even higher. It reaches the federal government level.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Agencies like DWR, the Department of Employment and Workplace Relations, and the Tertiary Education Commission are tasked with funding retraining initiatives.
Right. Government grants and programs.
Historically, government retraining programs often suffer from massive bureaucratic lag. Funds are allocated, students study for years, and it is very difficult to track if that specific funding actually resulted in a resilient job.
EON addresses this by stating their platform is ANA audit ready. Now, for the listener who hasn't spent time dealing with federal compliance, what does that actually mean for the effectiveness of the program?
ANAO stands for the Australian National Audit Office. They are the ultimate watchdog for government spending.
Okay.
Saying the platform is ANAO audit ready means the technological infrastructure allows the government to track every single taxpayer dollar spent directly to a verified employment outcome in real time.
In real time.
Yes. The platform utilizes AI-verified skill assessments and live employment tracking.
So it completely removes the bureaucratic red tape. The government isn't just throwing money at a university and hoping it works. They are funding a quantifiable outcome.
It creates complete transparency. It is a system that is entirely defensible to any parliamentary committee or Senate estimates hearing.
That's a big deal.
It is. This is why EON's chairman and CEO, Dan Lajerskar, is actively facilitating in-person meetings across Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Canberra, Auckland, and Wellington. The system is ready to deploy. Institutional access credentials can be generated in a single business day.
And when you look at it from a political perspective, the narrative is unbeatable. The source material poses this scenario. Imagine being a policymaker and being able to stand up and champion the story of a Sydney mortgage holder who successfully retrained for a future-proof, AI-resilient career in just 90 days.
Yep.
Without accumulating a single dollar of new student debt and without defaulting on their home. That is an incredible story.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the political capital generated by that outcome is immense. That is a massive policy win.
Truly.
And this entire strategic rollout, the low cost, the high speed, the institutional partnerships, the global mobility, it's all part of a broader philosophy. EON calls the sovereign human initiative.
That is a very striking phrase, the sovereign human. What is the underlying mechanism of that initiative?
The Sovereign Human Initiative is a framework designed to ensure that as artificial intelligence fundamentally rewires the global economy, the human worker does not become a secondary displaced asset.
Okay.
It is about engineering economic empowerment. By removing the financial and temporal barriers to elite education, the initiative ensures that the individual remains independent, economically viable, and sovereign over their own career trajectory, regardless of how the technological landscape shifts.
Which brings us right back to you, the listener, and the mission of today's deep dive. We started by looking at the very real anxiety surrounding AI.
That's 60% displacement statistic.
Right, that statistic that feels like a looming storm. But by examining the actual mechanisms of the global virtual campus, we see a completely different reality.
The technological shift is actually forcing the creation of a vastly superior educational infrastructure. The friction that defined professional development for the last century is being engineered out of the system entirely.
You don't have to pause your life. You don't have to risk your mortgage or take on crippling debt. You can leverage your existing professional foundation and use a 90-day sprint to leapfrog into a globally recognized AI-resilient career.
Exactly.
It transforms AI from a threat to your livelihood into the catalyst for the greatest professional upgrade in history.
It is a structural redesign of how we value time, education, and human potential. And if we truly absorb the implications of this sovereign human initiative, this reality of frictionless, globally mobile upskilling, it forces us to ask a rather profound question about our own futures.
What's that?
Well, if the friction of time and the burden of debt are permanently removed from the equation and lifelong learning transforms from an expensive luxury into a rapid everyday habit, how might that fundamentally change how you view your own career trajectory? What arbitrary limits have you placed on your own career that you can now afford to completely ignore?
A very compelling thought to leave on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the source material. We hope it gave you a new perspective on the tools being built for your future. Keep learning, keep questioning, and we'll catch you next time.